Johann Wolfgang von Goethe is the most quoted, most beloved author of Germany and a hopeless romantic. He was the man that Germans claimed to be the equivalent of Shakespeare. But of course, they believed that Goethe was far superior to Shakespeare. Goethe was born in the summer of 1749 in Frankfurt, Germany. With over 20 streets in Germany bearing his name, the Goethe University, the Goethe Institute with 159 branches worldwide, there is no doubt that Goethe is well known and the pride of Germany. No trip to Germany is complete without a visit to the Goethe House in Frankfurt, where Goethe was born and spent his teenage years. Despite being destroyed during World War II, the home has been restored to its former glory, and invites visitors to step back in time through the museum that has restored a short segment of history when Goethe lived. Frankfurt has been the economic center of Germany since 1585, an obvious place for Goethe's wealthy upper-class father to settle down. His mother was the daughter of the imperial counselor. Goethe never knew poverty, but carefully observed the Industrial Revolution and how it seemed to turn people into part of the machine. His father homeschooled him, initially teaching him by himself, and then hiring private tutors. By the age of 8, he was able to communicate not only in German, but also in basic Greek, Latin, French, and Italian. He became precocious but lovable, but also developed a self-confidence that lasted throughout life. At the age of 16, he left home and went to study law at the University of Leipzig, over 200 miles from his hometown and family. He wasn't particularly interested in law, and rather preferred botany, mineralogy, history, political science, anything other than law. Like many other scholars of the time, he sought to seek the true nature of everything. He eventually left Leipzig and went 370 miles across the country to Strasbourg to finish his law studies, and he finally earned his degree in 1771. It was here that he learned about Shakespeare, and his eyes and mind were open to the world of literature and poetry. His mother had planted the seeds of storytelling, but it was in Strasbourg that his passion for writing began to bloom. This isn't to say that he first started writing after 1771. On the contrary, he was well known for his poetry. There are collections of love poems that he wrote to Anna Katharina Schönkopf when he was 17. But Anna was not the only object of Goethe's affection. Throughout his life, he found love and muses to inspire his poetry. Charlotte von Stein received love letters for over 50 years from Goethe, even when she was married to someone else. He did eventually marry Christiane Gropius, who was 16 years younger and beautiful, but not on the same social or intellectual level as Goethe. They met in Italy and lived as husband and wife, had children together, but did not actually marry until 20 years later. The Sorrows of a Young Werther was his first successful publication at the age of 25. It was based on his love for a woman who was engaged to a friend. He began to get popular and his fan base started to grow, but not just in Germany, but worldwide. He was engaged to a woman, but broke it off in 1775 and moved to Weimar, when the Duke of Weimar, who was quite impressed with his writing, invited him to come and be a part of the court. Here, Goethe spent most of his life writing melodramas and dramatic plots. Weimar was the center of the Golden Age, and the scholars flocked here to share in the culture, philosophy, literature, and music that were here. Being at the center of it all and having the attention of the noble classes, this was a time for him to party. For 3 years, he and the young Duke of Weimar were apparently quite scandalous, and would rival today's Hollywood bad boys. After 3 years of craziness, he tired of the party scene and settled down and worked very hard for the Duke to build up his resources and his army. Yet, he still continued to write. But by far, his most famous work is Faust, based on a medieval story of a man who sold his soul to the devil in order to get supernatural powers. God and the devil make a bet that even though man will be tempted to make bad decisions throughout life, God believes that man would ultimately make the right decisions between good and evil. God even allows Mephisto, the devil, to interfere in his life and to tempt him, confident that Faust will know the right path to choose. This theme has been the basis of many stories throughout centuries, starting with the Book of Job in the Bible, and making its way into Hollywood movies such as Constantine. The story of Faust is quite a soap opera. Faust is a 50-year-old man who wants to learn more than what is humanly possible. He makes a deal with the devil, gets a beautiful young girl to fall in love with him through the use of a magical potion, gets the girl pregnant, abandons her, she kills the baby, ends up in prison. The question is, will Faust make the right decision between what is right and wrong? To find out, you'll have to read the book. Goethe's beliefs are part of the subplot of the story. He believed that man's salvation was based on his own effort and his personal relationship with God. He didn't believe that the church needed to mediate for you, and he saw the church as corrupt and materialistic. He was part of the Sturm und Drang literary movement, which was the extreme version of Romanticism. It was all about freedom, imagination, individualism, the virtue of the untamed nature, and the validity of emotions, but it was Romanticism on steroids, with melancholy, overly sensitive characters, and everything exaggerated to prove a point. The Romantics were tired of the restrictive rules of the era, and were rebelling against them. Sturm und Drang has been translated as storm and stress, but the actual German translation is more like storm and drive, or storm and urge, but the intent of the meaning was more like passion and energy, or energy and rebellion. To illustrate what was behind the movement, modern psychology has borrowed this term to describe the adolescent and teenage years, an unavoidable stormy time of life, a type of temporary insanity, with unpredictable mood swings and anxiety caused by raging hormones. J.K. Rowling also transformed the name into Durmstrang by transposing the letters. The Durmstrang characters are dark, sullen, and moody, and accept the dark arts. Do you see a relationship here? When Goethe finished Faust, his tragic play in 2 parts in 1831, he gave strict orders that it stay sealed and unread until its death. Shortly after that, in 1832, he died unexpectedly after a fever and infection. He was buried in the Fürstengruft, or the royal tomb in Weimar. Nonetheless, his works and influence on literature, music, science, and naturalism have lived on throughout the centuries.